welcome back to another episode of the Beacon Breakdown. My name is Keegan Laird Thompson. I'm joined today by my good friend Ricky Paz, who is the captain and actually, I believe, the founding member of the iRacing team here on Valpo's campus.
Yep, that's me. I'm a captain coach, lead driver of the Valpo University iRacing Esports team for both our road and oval side. Um, yeah, that pretty much covers it. Founding member, yeah, we'll call it that. Tristan,
Yeah,
it's a joint effort between Tristan and I, but yeah, not many people know a lot about that. So
Yeah, so we got a hard-hitting interview coming up with this guy in a number of minutes. However, before we get into that, we're going to be giving you guys the news as well as the placements and the wins and losses of all of our teams here in the Valpo Esports program. So we're going to let's start with iRacing. I had the pleasure of commentating not the iRacing, I'm sorry,
there
I'm
you
at
go.
Rocket League. I had the pleasure of commentating the Rocket League Gold match this past week, which was an unfortunate loss. I believe it was an 0-3 deficit. They were able to put a goal up, so that's good. But other than that, it was a blowout. But they're going to try to bounce back, play harder this Friday. Rocket League Brown got a forfeit win this weekend. Marion Tech was not able. Oh no, Marion Tech is who played Gold. I got all mixed up, but. They had a forfeit win, so I believe that is their first of the season and they're going to be trying to ride that momentum. You know, it was a free win, but I think they're going to actually try to earn one this coming week as well. That brings us into League of Legends, who won their past Gleck match this weekend 2-0. Overwatch team, their game is out. They have been practicing, and I believe a number of them have been enjoying it. They actually had a inter-program tournament between all of the other teams this weekend, which I was unable to attend because I had work that night. But it seemed like everyone had a good time, and they're loving the game. Their competition starts this Thursday and I believe we're going to be trying to stream it. We might not be able to, but we'll play it by ear. Keep an eye out on the Twitter page if you guys want to be updated, as well as follow us on the Twitch page so you get your updates whenever those matches are going to be happening. Of course, next we're going to go. Let's talk about iRacing next.
Yeah. Um,
I'd say you know more about that than I would.
yeah, so this week we're going to Talladega, which is a 2.5 mile track. So it's you ever seen the movie Talladega Nights? That's where we're racing. It'll be interesting to see. There's our B class race tonight, which is where all of our rookie drivers are, and where Matt is. And right now, they all need a good finish to advance to tomorrow. Ethan just needs to keep his car together and finish the race, and he'll be in race tomorrow with me in the pro race. And
Nice.
Matt's close, and Garrett needs a good finish. That's who we're hoping for. So we should have our strategist, our shout out to Overton Speed Shop and the fellows over there that have been helping out this Valpo Esports program should be on the box and helping us get to the front. Hopefully, we'll see some Valpo cars in our new special scheme that you'll see on the stream tonight, and it'll be put on Twitter later. Got a special scheme for the month of October, our nice breast cancer awareness promotion
Oh,
for
nice.
the Valpo esports stuff. So expect to see some pink on the car somewhere, and we'll see what we can do. I'll be racing tomorrow night. Both races start at 7:45 Central Time. That's when the streams will start, and that'll be on Collegiate iRacing League on YouTube and or Twitter.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Ricky. That will bring us to Smash My Baby. We have yet to lose a single match. We lost one to Franklin a little bit earlier on in the season in Gleck. We are still undefeated within the NECC after qualifying and placement matches. And for Gleck, we are currently sitting 6-1, if I'm not mistaken, with a win over undefeated Mount Vernon University 2-0 this past weekend. Or no, sorry, 2-1 this past weekend. They got set on us. Um, so doing okay in that regard as well. Very close to, actually, I believe we're pretty much guaranteed to get into playoffs at this point. But at this point, it's a battle of seeding between us and Manchester. So this will be fun. The closing stretch is coming, and I'm excited to see where the team ends up. And from there, that's going to sum it up for this week. If you guys just, want to know what's going on every single week, we do this right here on the Beacon Breakdown before our special guest interview which we're going to get into right now. So, Ricky Paz, founding member, team captain, as well as coach for the iRacing team here at Valpo. What was your esports journey like before you even came to Valpo?
So I was lucky enough to come to Valpo I live nearby. I grew up in the area, knowing that Valpo was a university. I had no idea that Valpo had an esports team, and so when I toured here, they told me that there was an esports team. This is back when we were in the old room, and so getting to walk past that, I remember just looking in the lab, and I thought, that would be really cool. And this was in December of 2019, so 2020 came around. I personally had not been a big PC gamer. I was more of a console gamer. I was both fortunate and unfortunate that I had to work throughout the pandemic. And so working throughout the pandemic, I saved up my money. I had some expendable income, bought a computer, bought iRacing, and I pretty much the week that I started on the simulator, I reached out to Tristan. I said, "Hey, I want to make this happen. I know that this is like a push and this is coming, and this is up and coming in some of the esports programs around the area. Let's see if we can't get a rig on campus, some steering wheel and pedal, and see if we can't make something happen." So had that happen towards the second semester I was here. This would have been early 2021.
Right.
Got some equipment here. Found an um, a competitive organization to compete in, and we've been going uphill since then.
Nice, nice, man. So, a lot of people don't really have an understanding of what iRacing is as a concept. They hear about it, so they probably picture something similar to Rocket League when they think about iRacing. So, how would you describe iRacing to someone who has no idea what it is?
So I've had to sell iRacing a few times, and I don't work for them.
Oh, cool.
So
Give
so
us the
so
elevator pitch.
yeah, but
Yeah.
so basically iRacing is a simulation that some developers put together back in 2008. Some famous race car drivers like Dale Earnhardt Jr. and some current race car drivers like William Byron and some other NASCAR drivers, some IndyCar drivers like Tony Kanaan. They came together with this concept idea, and they said, we want something that can act as a simulator for what is real life racing. And so iRacing came together, they put together this simulator. It's been ever changing, ever evolving. And so iRacing is not a video game
Right.
like some of the other things we play. Um, it is a competitive simulation based racing simulator. And so the best way to explain it is like if let's say you're playing Mario Kart, right?
Yeah. I
And
love Mario
you
Kart.
you get to like change the view of like where you're at in Mario Kart. Like you could like let's say you could like sit right behind the cart or you could sit far behind the cart. You don't get any of those options. This is as close to driving a real race car as you can possibly get without driving a real race car, which makes the simulation all that much harder. Um, all of NASCAR's tracks that they compete at in the professional tour are on this simulation, and so a lot of our competitive organization competitions that we compete in are at racetracks that the actual NASCAR series are competing in. So, for example, we're competing in Talladega this week. NASCAR raced at Talladega 2 weeks ago in real life,
Okay.
and so we get to follow their schedule a little bit and see what it's like to race for us. And we get to race in the actual real NASCAR cars every other week. So we have a bi-weekly schedule. We get to race in the NASCAR cars one week, and we get to race in the road course cars the next week. So it's
Okay.
it's it's really unique. It's easy to sell as a video game, but when you get into it and you realize how hard it is, like you can understand this is like an actual real life simulation of what it's like to drive a real race car, and that makes it all the more humbling, I think.
So you don't just have access to the controls and the tracks and everything. You also have to deal with road hazards, other cars, obviously. Like, when the laps get later, do you have to go into pit stops and worry about when the tires start peeling on the track, like stuff like that?
Yeah, everything. So, iRacing is a full competition type of game. It's not an arcade game. And so what that means is that when you're racing, let's say someone else crashes into you and they make your fenders get pumped, pushed in, your fenders pushed in for the rest of the race. Like so you have to deal with all the damage. You do have to make pit stops in a lot of instances. For instance, this race at Talladega this upcoming week, we're not going to be having to make pit stops for tires per se, but we are going to run out of fuel, and so there's going to be a
Right.
fuel aspect in which we had to come in, had to fill the car full of fuel about halfway throughout the race, and then we'll make the rest of the race to get some gas. And just to get a little perspective of it, like everything that would happen in a real race car, someone else is driving, dangerously in front of you, you're going to have to avoid that, or else, you crash into them, you blow your engine, you're done for the
Right.
day.
Yeah.
That's it. So luckily for us, and because it is a simulation, you can our organizing competition body inputs what they call a fast repair, which is if
Okay.
you get in a crash, you get to just get a new car, but you only get that opportunity once throughout the race.
Okay.
So at a track like Talladega, where there's going to be a lot of crashes and it's going to be really fun to watch, if you blow your engine, luckily you get a new car. But you only
Right.
get that one time. You blow your engine twice, like that's it. You're done. In iRacing has its own professional competitions throughout the that organization, and those organizations you don't get those perks. If you crash the car, you crash the car. You're done for the race.
Right.
So, which is why it's all the more important to to drive safe. When you see like an arcade video game or like Mario Kart, like you're gonna bounce into walls and you're gonna hit a banana peel. Like if a banana peels another car and you hit that, like, yeah, that's it.
You're probably
You're
done.
done.
Yeah.
So it's unique, and it's again, it's really difficult. Something that I've been having to really hit home to my drivers about is these races are long and they're grueling. You don't want to be done in the first 5 laps just because we're driving a little too hard, or someone else around us is making too many mistakes. You get caught up in that mistake, that's it, whether it's your mistake or not. And so it's really important to take care of our equipment as if we were driving a real race car.
Right.
Luckily for us, we're not spending millions of dollars on race cars when we crash them.
Which
But
is
it's
helpful.
yeah, it's just couple bucks we save in the pocket. But these are things that we all have to think about when we're racing too.
Yeah. Yeah. So, how deep do the mechanics go of that game? Like, is there drafting? Is there like air resistance, weather conditions, things like that you need to consider?
Yeah, so I'll start with the drafting and the air physics. These cars, especially at Talladega this week with these big racetracks, you're going to see cars forming lines. They're going to be, bumping each other to go faster. So you get behind a car, you're gonna suck right up to that back bumper just because all that air that's getting pushed to the side of the car. If you're in that wake, you're gonna just catch up. You're gonna go a lot faster. You get about an extra 10 miles an hour out of these cars when you're in the draft. And so because Talladega is such a big track with hardly any braking at all,
Hmm.
you're going to be wide open on the throttle in a draft in a line, and that's what causes these races in particular to have so many wrecks.
Right.
So drafting physics, air physics, they're all implemented into this game. Tire wear, fuel wear, those things are all implemented into this game. There are tracks that we have gone to this season where they were a mile and a half. You have to be careful with how you're braking. If you brake a little bit too hard and you upset the rear of the car, like if you hit the brakes, the weight goes to the front of the car.
Hmm.
That rear end will slide out. You'll spin out and crash because you have to be uber aware, like super aware of where the weight is in the car. If you turn the wheel too much, you might lock the tires up into the wall, crashed. So these are things that are super super realistic. And of course, iRacing has been developing to make sure, I think we're on our sixth or seventh tire model since the game's inception. And so they're ever changing how the tires feel with what the tires feel like in real life.
Right.
And depending on what car you drive too, right? If you're going to drive like an F1 car, those cars are going to have an insane amount of grip, an insane amount of downforce, and those tires are going to be super, super grippy for the track that you're going at. Now, if you're driving like a dirt race car where you're like drifting, turning right to go left, like in the movie Cars, those tires aren't going to have as much grip as you think, but those those still wear and tear as well. And so uh, it happens through the longer races rather than not as much in the shorter races, but it is important. I mean, anything that you can think of what is real, they've thought about it and they've implemented it in the game, except rain. They haven't put rain into the sim yet, but the last couple of years they've been working on it. And
Oh
so
no.
so we've got about maybe half a year to a year before they put it in the game, and then that's one more thing that we're gonna have to think about. So,
So that's one of those balance patches that come in and people just aren't gonna like it.
yep, I'm pretty sure. Well, I've been hoping for it because I think it'll level the playing field too.
That's
When
fair.
when you're thinking about what's real and what's realistic and what it's like to drive a real race car, you're gonna want to feel what it's like to drive into the rain, and
Yeah.
so that'll be interesting as well.
So we're gonna move a little bit away from some of the mechanics of the game. I appreciate that insight because
Yeah.
I actually didn't know a lot of that stuff. I wanted to know how deep it really went, but it seems like the developers put a lot of time and effort into that. You mentioned they also consulted a couple of professional racers to test
Yeah.
out the simulator to say like, oh yeah, this is kind of what it feels like, or otherwise.
Yeah, so actually, this simulator is used by a lot of professional race car drivers. Actually, I have raced against professional race car drivers in the sim myself.
Did you win?
No, but that's it's a part of that realistic thing. You'll get into the race car and I'll be top five in the session, the practice session. I'll think, oh yeah, I'm doing real good,
Hmm.
and then a professional driver comes in and shatters the time by like a whole second, and you're like,
Right.
what are we doing? So it is realistic. In that sense. In 2020, during the COVID years, both the IndyCar series, which is the organizing body, the governing body that does the Indy 500 every year,
Hmm.
and NASCAR, who does all of the NASCAR races, they both shifted to an iRacing model during 2020. And so while it didn't count towards the actual championship, they did their own mini championship. And so you can search on YouTube, IndyCar iRacing or NASCAR iRacing, and you'll see all the professional drivers that you see racing the real cars racing on their at-home sims. And so that's really unique. Dale Jr., who is arguably one of the most famous race car drivers because of his father. Everyone know, not everyone, but a lot of people know who Dale Jr. is. He is on the board of iRacing now,
Oh,
and
that's
so
awesome.
so he is instrumental and super important in the development of this game and what it is, what it has become, and what it will be.
Hmm.
And so he and a couple other race car drivers just love this stuff and want to make it as realistic, continue to make it as realistic as possible year after
Right.
year. Yep.
Well, I mean, if people like Dale Earnhardt are on the panel for it, do they think it's probably a much safer alternative and also like cost effective way to practice as opposed to going on the track with like your big expensive car and trying not to crash or whatever?
It's cost effective. I wouldn't say that it's a good alternative, but
Right. Well, I mean, obviously, I
but
mean,
for
imagine they're different, but
they are, but like for people like me who don't have $1 million to spend on a race car,
right.
like I'm gonna go in an iRacing and I'm gonna run all the races I can, and get that little child, that inner child in me really excited because it's it's being curated by real race car drivers. So all of the information that I'm getting from the actual simulator is telling me what it would like, just the same it would tell a real race car driver. Um, so that it's important in that way. Um, Real race car drivers use both iRacing and they use a super private simulator that is like hundreds of thousands of dollars to even buy access to.
Right.
So between those two simulators, they usually do practice during the off season if they can't get into their real race car. But of course, nothing's going to beat doing the real thing if So
Yeah. So I want to move back a little bit more to you, Ricky, because as I understand it, if Tristan tells me correct, you actually helped design some of the equipment for the iRacing simulator. Is that true?
yeah, when we were coming in, I had my own equipment at home, and I was super excited to try and get some equipment in the lab for someone hopefully that would be other than me, right? So I
Right.
would love to use it, but for the future of the program, to have physical equipment in the lab for another person, another competitor. So I helped us pick what equipment we were going to use. Um, I helped us. I did some research and Tristan did some research. We ended up finding the organizing body, governing body that we compete in, which is Collegiate iRacing League. And then I also reached out to iRacing as well as a lot of other college-aged iRacers to try and create the eNASCAR iRacing series.
Hmm.
And so I know that I was sending emails to iRacing. I know other people were, and now NACE has sponsored the eNASCAR iRacing College Series. So that is something that has happened in the last year or so. Um, So I mean, I'd say that I have a little role. I do also help create our paint schemes, which you see on every week, which is what our race cars are. Like like a skin in a game or something
Yeah,
like that. And so that's also just as important to our name and to get our you know logo on the car
of course.
for advertising and things like that, just as important. So I mean, I've helped in those instances. um, I seriously undersell my short. I sell myself short just because I try to be humble and but I'm very excited that everything that Tristan and I have worked towards has gotten us a team of 4 people, rather than just me how it started. And so that's super important to me, and I'm glad that we're keeping pushing and seeing what happens.
Yeah, yeah. So, moving ahead a little bit, you discussed that you brought together this program. I mean, you helped build it up from the ground. You helped build the simulators that we use out there. You helped get the scene sponsored by NACE as well as a bunch of other organizations. And you did that all here. So I want to ask you, what does Valpo Esports as a whole mean to you? Because it seems like you've been a very big factor in the success and some of the identity of this program.
Yeah. It's really important. It's near and dear to my heart, really. I know that when I came into my freshman year, the esports team had only been a year or two old, and so I figured that if I wanted to, put put my name on it and put a spin on it, that this would be the perfect time to put a staple in the program and say, hey, here's what I think should be an esports program. As a music major, these game like esports doesn't really have anything to do with me and the future of my career, but I do find it really important as a bonding exercise. There are so many teams in this room. And, this lab is really diverse, with major and ages and everything. We all play different games, and when we're able to come together and be a community, Valpo Esports is one team. I think that that's really important to me, especially as someone who's going to be a teacher and someone who, really holds companionship near and dear to my heart. I find it really important that I could walk into the lab and people would be like, that's the iRacing coach, or, that's Ricky. And I would,
Yeah,
that's really cool to me. I'm still trying to learn everyone's name because we have a super big team now.
much bigger than we had the
Yeah.
past 2 years.
Yeah, but it's important to me that we have this environment for people. Some people, I went to a high school that didn't have an esports team.
Right.
I had only heard of esports and thought, oh, well, that would be cool, but like that's nothing that I would ever do. And then when I finally got the opportunity to do it, like I saw how important it was to me and to other people. And so that's why I'm glad that Valpo Esports exists. And I'm happy to, I don't want to say cement my legacy, but,
You've
put
done a
put my
good
name on the
job of it.
program.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So, you mentioned this a little bit ago, but you mentioned that you probably will not be continuing doing esports after you graduate. What are your plans after you graduate? You said you wanted to, go into music. Are you planning on performing or being a music teacher or
A little bit of both. I think so. I'm currently a music education major, but a musician is a musician. Yeah, I'm never gonna turn down an opportunity to perform somewhere cool or to do something awesome. Currently looking at grad school, seeing what that looks like for me. Possibly considering a master or a doctorate in conducting,
Oh, wow.
which would help me work with like either work at the university level or work with professional ensembles nearby or somewhere in the United States with a degree like that. And that would be really unique just to have that and know that everything that I've learned will help other people enjoy music better, and that's really important to me. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. But I also, I also love teaching and I love music. So whatever opportunity presents itself, it'd be hard for me to say no.
Yeah. And on top of that, is iRacing still something you'd pursue on the side
Oh yeah.
or
Oh yeah.
yeah?
I think I'm like too far in. I'm too far in. I'm so far in love with the simulator, and especially growing up as a racing fan and never being able to afford to go racing or do anything like that. To have this at a cheaper, you know, uh, alternative, and to see how realistic it is. I mean, it really feeds that inner child of mine, and so it'd be hard to let go. But like any game or simulator, I should say, like anything that you do for fun, there are days where you're like, You just wanna punch something. So
Yeah, well, hey,
depends on the day, but
y-
it is really important to me, and I really love that. Yeah.
yeah, as long as you don't punch something,
No,
I'd
no, no,
say it's passion.
not here.
It's
Yeah.
just it's just it's just because you care about things,
Oh yeah.
but
Oh yeah.
it's just like when people yell at TV watching sports. Same phenomenon,
Oh
man.
yeah. Oh yeah.
So in terms of your inspiration when it comes to esports here or even in music, do you have anyone that you look up to? Anyone who's like, I want to be like them, or I want to do things similar to them, or they inspire me to keep doing what I'm doing because of what they've done?
That's a little bit of like I'm not sure if that's necessarily the right question for what my answer is gonna be, but
Okay,
but
well,
I but like I have a really great support group of people, and so
mhm,
I look up to a lot of people. I my parents have supported me to come to college, and being a commuter and living more than half an hour away, there are days where I come home late, either after a competition or after a late class, and I'll come and sit down, and they'll just be like, how's your day, and
yeah,
that, as human beings, we all need that support group of people to be there and to inspire, to push us a little bit more. I have some great friends. I have a wonderful girlfriend, and I have great teammates on my own team that inspire me. Week after week. As I was telling you before we went live, this season for me, as far as iRacing, hasn't been going the greatest. I've been collected in quite a few wrecks for things that weren't my fault, and
right.
being able to have a team of 4 people where it's not just me, holding all of Valpo's pride on my shoulders. I mean, Ethan is top 10 in points right now in the Pro
Wow.
Series, and he's a rookie. So I'm really proud and I'm inspired by them to keep pushing on the days, especially where I'm, having a tough race, or it's just like, gosh, my arms are so sore. I don't want to run this anymore, and they're a really great inspiration. So really happy to have a great team, and really a great team in real life in my corner, family, friends, um, and teachers too here. I mean, Tristan has been a great inspiration for me here on the
Oh
team,
yeah.
just to keep pushing and to keep putting our name on the board for us. And really last year, when I had made the eNASCAR College Pro Series race, that was so important to me and so important to Valpo to get our name out there. And so I know that's another inspiration to me, just knowing like, hey, I've been here before, like there's no reason that I can't keep pushing us to be better, both as a team and me as an individual, whether I'm performing in music or doing esports, or just walking out on the sidewalk doing my best and being the best I can be.
Yeah, man. Well, that is almost our time, but Ricky, I would like to say thank you so much for
That's
coming
all
on
right.
today. It was an absolute pleasure for me. Thank you for explaining to the people what it is that you do here, what you're passionate about, and the rest of the comings and goings of your team. But before we close today, do you have anything you'd like to add or tell the people here who might be watching you?
uh, Watch our Twitter. Valpo Esports Twitter has retweets a lot of my stuff and the team stuff, um, especially tonight when we're you know unveiling our special breast cancer scheme for our first oval race of October. I think it'll be really unique. It's really different than anything else we've done so far, as iRacing has been a part of the team at Valpo. So it's a little bit out of our color scheme, but it'll be really unique, and I think that a lot of people will like it, and it's a cause that's near and dear to my heart. So take a look at our Twitter, and keep following the rest of the team. Supporting one team on Valpo Esports is supporting all of us, and so we're really grateful. And yeah, thanks for having me on.
Of course, man. Thanks for being here. Well, until next time, we might not be having a show next Monday. Keep an eye on our Twitter as well for updates about the Beacon Breakdown. But for Ricky, for Mike, who's over there on production, as well as the rest of the Valpo Esports program, I'm Keegan Laird Thompson. Thank you for tuning in. I'll catch you next time.